G'day guys, it's Wolfie here and welcome back to the pack. Okay, so today I'm going to show you the latest installment of the engine swap series, series that we've been doing for a little while now. And this one is an absolute monster. Strangely enough, it's probably, I think, the first engine swap that I ever did, but I've never really gotten around to posting it. I tend to sort of do mostly engine swaps with sort of race car engines in it because you get better fuel economy. However, this thing is still amazing for the Tokyo WTC 600 event, and just given the amount of sheer power and top end that you get out of it, it actually makes it worthwhile doing a pit stop for this event, and you're still going to be as quick as you will in just about anything else. So yeah, it's the Mazda Roadster S, the ND body variant. My mate had one of the older ones when I was a kid, like an NA or NB or something, and they're just a whole lot of fun. Really easy to throw around, very easy to handle, and this thing, strangely enough, is a really good candidate for the engine swap, and the engine that it's copying is an absolute monster. It's the LT1 Corvette engine, so we're throwing a small block in it, ladies and gentlemen. So yeah, you may know it as the Roadster S. I know it as the MX-5, and yeah, after this, we'll all know it as a monster. So be sure to like and subscribe, and let's get stuck in. So first port of call is going to be the Brand Central Mazda dealership. So we're heading over to Asia Pacific and then to Mazda. And the car that we're looking for is going to be the second one here in the showroom, the Roadster S ND, as I was saying, from 2015. So good looking car. So pick yourself out a lovely colour, and for 24,000 credits, it's, you know, cheap as chips really. So we're going to buy that one. And look, the engine itself isn't actually that much either. So all up, you're probably looking at around 200,000 credits for the car and the engine. So next up, we're going to go into GT Auto. We're going to do the wide body and engine swap conversions. So that's going to chuck on another 130,000. But yeah, I mean, when you think of what sort of money we usually spend on these engine swaps, it's actually not much at all. So first up, we're going to do the wide body conversion here. And then of course, next up is the engine swap conversion. And as I was saying, it's getting the LT1 small block, whopping great big V8, 6.1 litre, naturally aspirated, and as you can see there, you know, that's a huge increase in displacement. Still naturally aspirated, still, you know, front engine, rear wheel driven, a little bit heavier, 110 kilos heavier. Brake horsepower is like almost tripling. The torque is through the roof comparatively, and the power to weight ratio is awesome on this. And as you can see there, it's not really, you know, it's not the hugest jump in PP. It does take us up sort of close to our 600 mark, but we'll still manage to get everything else that we need to get. So we're going to chuck that in. Okay, and so next up we're going to concentrate on our exterior body parts. I'll give you a quick run through of those. So first up, we're going to want to get the wheels sorted. So as per usual, we're going to pick out a set of aftermarket wheels. Just pick something out that you like. I've gone with a set of BBS here, and I'm just going to pick something out that sort of goes with my livery or whatever, or goes with the car. And we're going to use the smallest rim diameter, and so 14 inch there. We're going to use the wide rim width and the wide offset. So with the wide rim width, you're really going to need that offset. You know, the tubs are reasonably tubbed, this thing, but without the offset, there's a chance that those wide rims are actually going to sort of hit the inside of the wheel well. So we're going for custom parts next, and for the front end we want to put on type B. I don't think it really matters if it's type A or B, but yeah, I've chosen to go with B. Now side skirts, I don't really know if it matters. I've gone with type B. I don't really see many changes as far as the PP's concerned, but yeah, it may do, I'm not entirely sure. And for the rear, it's really important that you get the type A. We need that rear diffuser. It sort of just helps to tie in the entire aerodynamic package and the ground effect, just to keep your thing stuck to the ground. And for your rear wing, you got to use custom wing, because we need sort of quite a bit of rear downforce. I don't think it matters whether you use low, medium or high, or what the end plate is, but just as long as you use custom wing, that way we can get a whole lot of rear downforce, because this car really needs it to keep that rear end sort of against the ground. And as you can see here, the only other thing we're going to want to do is put on the roll bar. So that'll change the performance points ever so slightly, but it'll also help to make the car a bit more sturdy. And the rest is going to be performance parts, and I'll show you all those in this tuning sheet. So as you can see here, I've got 597 flat performance points, and the reason for that is because, as you'll see, once again, I've done the Wolfie spec for the tyres. So I've gone sports hards on the front and sports mediums on the back, and you'll notice if I put both sports hards, it goes up to 600. So you guys have got the option, you can chop or change. I'm choosing to use the sports mediums on the back for the opening stint, and then it'll only allow you to change to sports hards front and rear. So we've got 672 brake horsepower. The torque on this thing is absolutely massive, and it actually gives out the power and torque reasonably equally all the way up the rev range. So that's kind of handy. You just, you know, it can be a little bit point and shoot, this thing. There's a whole lot of power. So front to rear weight differential is like 52 to 48. So that's pretty good, close to being a 50-50 split. Acceleration performance is really good, especially once you get a roll on, so you know, with top end and stuff. But yeah, you can get a bit of wheel spin as you take off, so you just want to be a little bit careful. Stability is really good with this thing, and you really need that in the lower speed corners. And the rotational G's aren't too bad, but they creep up a bit as it gets up into the top end. So as I was saying, we're using sports hards at the front, sports mediums at the rear. So you're gonna have to buy those. You'll also have to buy the fully customizable suspension, the racing suspension. And our body height adjustment is set to 108 at the front and 118 at the rear. Anti-roll bar is set to 7 at the front and 9 at the rear. Dampening ratio compression to 32 at the front and 33 at the rear. Dampening ratio expansion 47 at the front, 47 at the rear. Natural frequency 1.80 at the front, 2.05 at the rear. Negative camber at the front is 2.6 and at the rear 1.0. So I've taken off quite a bit of negative camber there just to try and save those rear tires a bit. And toe angle at the front is 0.05 outward, so to the left, and at the rear is 0.10 inward, so that's to the right. So once again, I've kept that sort of down a little bit. You'll also need to buy the fully customizable differential, and as you'll see here, we've got full slip, so you know, it's basically a totally open differential. So we've dropped them all down to 5, the initial torque, acceleration sensitivity and braking sensitivity. I wouldn't usually have the braking sensitivity down all the way, or even the acceleration sensitivity, but with this car we're making an exception because it's just got so much power. So anything we can do to cut back on wheel spin is going to help. Our downforce at the front is set to 125. So a lot of downforce, but you really need it with this car. And at the rear it's set to 278. So once again, quite a lot of rear downforce as well, but it's pretty evenly balanced. So, and you're going to need to buy the fully customizable ECU. And as I was saying there, that's set to 100%. If you look at that graph, it's just like absolutely huge, and it's reasonably even all the way up and down the rev range. Ballast, we've got 27 kilos. We've positioned that all the way to the back, and I'll show you why. Because if I now put that towards the middle, you'll notice that my acceleration performance has really dropped off. So that bit of extra weight over the rear is really helping us to keep this thing planted on the ground, because the car is pretty light. and it also evens up the weight balance between the front and rear. And as I was saying, if you look at that graph, the power output is pretty even all the way up the rev range. You do need to shift it just shy of full revs, but we'll have a look at that in race. You'll need to buy the fully customizable racing transmission. Now initially I've set that to 410, but what I've then gone and done is gone in and manually changed the final gear to 3.000, and then gone through and changed all these gears. So my first gear I've really splayed out, so just change it to that number exactly, and then second gear I've done the same. So you're not going to use first, but you will use second. So I've used second mostly for rotation. Third is the one that we're going to be using to start accelerating out of corners. So I've stretched those three out and then sort of brought them back in as we go up through fourth, fifth and sixth. So if you just copy all those numbers, the gears should be pretty much spread out perfectly for this race. Next up, we want the racing intercooler, so we're going to have to buy that. We're going to buy the high-end torque supercharger. We're going to buy the racing air cleaner, the racing silencer, the racing exhaust manifold, carbon brakes, but you can buy slotted discs or drill discs or whatever, as long as it's one of those three. The racing brake pads. I always grab the hydraulic handbrake, just in case I need to sort of spin myself out of a situation that I get in. Make sure you buy the brake controller. This is going to be important, because what we're going to do is, once it starts to dry out and we're getting some real tyre wear on the rear, we're going to just sort of push that forward progressively. And towards the end of the race, sometimes I'll have it up as high as 5 if I'm really struggling to save those rear tyres. That's just going to help you, because you're going to be wearing less of those tyres in the braking zones. So I'll start out at 0 and then I'll sort of move it up as it starts to dry out. I've got the steering angle adapter on here, but you're not really going to need that for this event. We've got the racing clutch and flywheel. You definitely want that. It's going to help with gear shifts, and getting your revs up as you change into the next gear. The propeller shaft, so we've got the carbon propeller shaft, and as you can see here, we've got no permanent mods to the engine, but we do have the weight reduction stage 1, 2 and 3, and the increased body rigidity. So yeah, I found this engine was perfect where it was, didn't need any permanent mods, didn't really want to open it up anymore. It already just uses the right amount of fuel and it's perfectly set up for what we want. So we're heading over to World Circuits, and we're going to Asia, Oceania, and then over here to Tokyo Expressway. And the event, of course, that we're doing is the world famous World Touring Car 600, the WTC 600 as it's also known. And yeah, you could be actually a little bit surprised by how well this car does. So as you'll see here, when I change tyres, it's only going to let me change to sports hards front and rear, but I am starting the race with sports hards on the front and sports mediums on the rear. And as I mentioned earlier, with this race, the name of the game is going to be top speed and power down the straights. And one thing that you're going to want to really concentrate on is just throttle control, really around the back end of the course. Just throttle control, not getting on it too hard or too suddenly, just sort of gradually getting on the accelerator. And speaking of acceleration, as you can see here, like this thing is just absolutely monstrous. Now it is using a lot more fuel than the builds that I'd usually do, but we're going to use that to our advantage, and we're going to do a pit stop in this one, which means that we've got the option of putting some mediums on the back and just absolutely tearing the guts out of them. Hit the wall there, don't know what I was doing, but anyway, we're going to wall ride this first bit here just to get ourselves out ahead, drop down to second, and then I'm going to accelerate out in fourth. Now it's still a little bit wet, so fourth is going to help me prevent wheel spin on the way out of that corner, and just using those higher gears is going to help me to prevent spinning out in these sort of first 2 or 3 laps when it's still pretty wet. And you'll notice even here I'm using third gear to exit, and I'm going into fourth pretty quickly just to stop that spin. As I was saying, the amount of slip that I've got on is very open diff, so that's really going to help with that sort of stuff. But yeah, still throttle control is going to be the order of the day, really. And so we just keep sort of testing that traction, testing that grip, and seeing how it goes, and as you can see, it's getting a lot quicker already. We're already up into the 2-minute ones. Lap 3, another 2-minute one. Lap 4 into the 159s, and from that point on it's consecutively under 2 minutes. So on lap 6 we'll come through for a 1 minute 58, so that's pretty good. And yeah, like I was saying with my last build, sometimes you're better off having the worn mediums rather than the fresher, slightly fresher hards. So we'll come in at the end of lap 7. I probably should have come in a little bit earlier. As you can see, I've got quite a bit of tyre wear there, but yeah, it was still manageable. And so we've only 5 laps remaining. I probably should have come in earlier, but you know, you've got that option. You can do 7 laps for your opening stint, or you know, 6 or whatever. And it wouldn't be long until you know, basically those two, the in lap and the out lap, they're going to add an extra, say, 30 seconds between the two of them. But then we're straight back into the 2-minute laps, and even down into the 159s. And by the end of the race, we'll come through and knock over another 159. As you can see here, we're at the 24.5 minute mark. So yeah, I mean, you can quite easily do under 25 minutes. I had a few mistakes in this, a couple of offs, and still managed to come through with 24 minutes, under 24 minutes and 50 seconds basically. So fastest lap was 1 minute 58.8, and as you can see, we lapped the entire field, double lapped some of them, and it was 24 minutes and 48 seconds. And of course we'll get our clean race bonus, the all important clean race bonus. Oh, and a 4-star ticket. So there you go, guys. I hope you like that one. Go out and make yourselves a mint. I do honestly think that, you know, most people can do a between a 25 and a 25.5 minute race with this car. It's just a matter of, as I was saying, using that throttle control around the back end of the course, because you're getting up to like almost 366 kilometers an hour down the straight. So you know, you're making up seconds on the straight alone. So you really don't have to attack it too hard around the back end of the course. You can just, you know, basically practice your throttle control around the back. But even then, I found that my pace was as good around the back of the course, just taking it easy, as it was with most other cars. You know, possibly aside from the 𝒲𝑜𝓁𝒻𝒻, but you know, that thing's just a beast of its own, isn't it? But yeah, so hope you guys like it, and yeah, be sure to like and subscribe. And yeah, I'll just mention, so I've opened up a new channel on the WPR Discord, and called it The Pack. So feel free to join, guys. The Discord link is in the channel description. And yeah, it's just a good place for, I noticed there was a lot of people sort of, you know, questioning or if they had mistakes, or found errors, or you know, if they wanted to just talk about the tunes or anything like that. So it's a good place for people to you know, work out any ideas like that. I found that once I started sort of, you know, mixing it up with the GT7 community and the sim racing community, is when I started getting a lot better, and sort of it makes it a lot easier to work stuff out, especially around things like tunes and stuff like that. So feel free to share your own tunes as well, guys. You know, it's a good place for it, and that way you don't have to wait for videos to come out and all that sort of stuff. And I'll share any tunes that I have that you know, don't make it to video. So yeah, get amongst it and stay in the loop with the pack and with the other pack members. I'll leave you guys with the recording of my fastest lap, just so you can get an idea of what I was doing. And yeah, be sure to like and subscribe, and until next time, guys, take care. Bye.